We're gonna make Mediterranean rice and lentils with spiced beef and crispy onions. It's a recipe that's inspired by Mujadra. It's a Middle Eastern dish that combines lentils, rice, and gets topped with crispy onions. And we are actually gonna add some ground beef and make it a nice, hearty weeknight meal. So we're gonna start with the rice. I have 3 quarts of water coming to a boil in a large saucepan. And here I have some long grain rice. We're gonna need 1 cup. And you don't need to rinse it because we are gonna be cooking the rice similar to the way you would cook pasta. Another good thing about this way of cooking rice is that you don't need a perfect ratio of water to rice. It's very forgiving. Here I have 1 pound of 85% lean ground beef, and I'm gonna cook the beef at the same time as the rice, but in a 12-inch non-stick skillet. I'm gonna cook it over medium heat for about 8 to 10 minutes until the beef is beginning to brown. Go ahead with a wooden spoon and just break up the meat pretty well because you want the pieces of meat to blend in nicely with the lentils and the rice. Okay, so again, that's gonna cook for 8 to 10 minutes until the meat is beginning to turn brown. Okay, we've got the rice. I drained the rice, and I drained it in a fine mesh strainer, which is important because sometimes with the other colanders, you can see that they have the larger holes, and the rice might have a tendency to fall through the holes. So this just ensured that everything stayed with us. Okay, now let's focus on the rest of the ingredients for our recipe. Here I have some lentils. These are canned lentils that I went ahead and drained and then rinsed. And this dish typically has warm spices in it, so think cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice. And I found that we could just use some pumpkin pie spice. It cut down on the amount of jars that I have in my pantry, and I only needed this. So let's mince some garlic. We have 3 cloves of garlic that I'm going to mince with the garlic press. And we're going to use a little bit of cumin. And again, we've got the pumpkin pie spice. It smells so good. And we're going to be using a good amount of salt and pepper, and that's because we haven't seasoned anything at this point. And the salt and pepper is also going to be seasoning the beef and the rice. We need our dill for later, so I'm just going to go ahead and pick it off. I'm just going to run my knife through the dill, which is nice and dry. It's not wet from being washed. I always find that's like the hardest way to chop any herbs, of course, but also dill especially. And you want about a 1/4 cup of that, so I'm just going to set that aside in this bowl here for later. Now, let's head back over to the stove to build our flavors. Okay, so it's been about 8 to 10 minutes, and the beef is looking great, just about brown. So now I'm going to add the spices that we just blended together and cook them until fragrant for about 30 seconds. I'm going to add just the lentils and the rice to the skillet, and we're almost done with the recipe. I'm just using the wooden spoon here. A little sticky, it's all right. And our lentils. Okay, I'm going to increase the heat to medium-high and let this cook for about 3 minutes, just until everything's warmed through. This kitchen smells so good right now. So I've got a couple accoutrements for my topping. First, I'm just going to transfer our beef, rice, lentil mixture here to this beautiful platter. This looks so good, so comforting. Just want to tuck into like a big bowl of it. So we've got a little bit of yogurt. It'll help to kind of give it a nice little creamy, cooling effect. I'm going to drizzle that right over top. And this is plain whole milk yogurt. I don't think Greek would work very well here. Next, I'm going to sprinkle with that chopped dill from earlier. And not only is this going to add that beautiful grassy dill flavor, and finally we have some crispy onions. And these are the ones that come in the plastic package, another useful ingredient that usually only gets some attention from me around the fall. So just like the pumpkin pie spice, I was happy to use this here. Oh my goodness. I almost don't want to eat it. I just want to take a picture of it and then stare at the picture. But I'm going to eat it. Just take a little bit here and squeeze a little lemon on there. Let's give it a taste. It's like the crispy onions on there, insanely delicious. The lentils are so tender, the rice is perfectly cooked, and the beef is so well seasoned. The texture of it is so delicious. And I love the fact that we added a little bit of that creamy yogurt on top with the dill. Those warm spices in there, a little cinnamon, a little nutmeg, a little bit of allspice. This is just a complete, well-rounded, well-seasoned weeknight meal that we made in under 30 minutes.